Hello, and welcome to In case you didn't get it by now, this is a retrospective of the Legend of Zelda franchise. The first Legend of Zelda game was released in 1987 on the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was such a mega hit that there have been over 20 Legend of Zelda games, including the CDI games, an animated series, a manga, and 5 spin-off games. I'm mainly going to be discussing the following: the original 2 games, The Legend of Zelda and Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link, the Ocarina of Time duology, the Wind Waker trilogy, no, I don't count Minish Cap, and Twilight Princess. The concept of the games is very easy to grasp. Ganondorf, or some generic bad guy, kidnaps the Princess Zelda, and it's up to Link, the hero of whatever it happens to be at this point in time, has to rescue her. You go to 4 dungeons: ice, fire, forest, and water, but there are others mixed in, like Spirit Temple and the Desert Temple, just to shake things up every now and again. The Legend of Zelda needs no introduction because it has been proclaimed one of the best games ever released. When it was ported to the Nintendo Game Boy 17 years after its original release, it was rated 8 out of 10 by IGN and 4.5 out of 5 by Nintendo Power. Zelda 2, its sequel, is unique because it's the only side-scroller, meaning it has controls like the Mario games. You can jump, but you also swing the sword, and it also introduced some concepts like Link's ability to use magic that would be used in future games. And then the next game, although it's technically not the next game because there was a Link to the Past and Link's Awakening, which I'm not counting because I don't have enough time to do that. Is Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time is the first Legend of Zelda game to be in the 3rd dimension. It was really bad graphics, but at least it was in the 3rd dimension and it was really fun to play. Story is relatively simple. This one had the evil boss Ganondorf instead of Ganon, and he wanted to steal a Triforce, like all evil villains in the Zelda franchise want to do. After Link meets his mildly annoying counterpart, Navi. No, not Navi. That's not funny. He meets Princess Zelda, who is worried about Ganondorf because she thinks he may be evil, because it's not bloody obvious. And she asks Link to go retrieve the Sacred Stone so he can open the door in the Temple of Time so he can retrieve the Master Sword and defeat Ganondorf. So he goes around gathering these stones, retrieves the Master Sword, but then something happens, there's this blinding white special effect, and then it's 7 years later, and this fat guy in gold robes is talking to you. He explains that he's the Sage of Light, and you have to retrieve the other 6 sages in order so you can defeat Ganondorf, but first you have to get to Ganondorf's castle. So you go through, now, 6 temples to get 6 sages, and then you fight Ganondorf. And then after fighting Ganondorf, the first time his castle collapses, and then he turns into Ganon. Zelda reveals that she's the 7th sage, gives you light arrows, and says, Link, I need you to defeat Ganondorf. So you defeat Ganondorf, and he's sealed in the sacred realm, or he's gone, and Zelda says, you have to go recover your lost time. So she sends you back to when you were a child. The traveling through time aspect kind of screwed up the timeline, because there are 2 sequels to this storyline that happened at the same time because he traveled through time. But those don't come yet. The next game in this series is Majora's Mask. In this one, you're not in Hyrule anymore. You're chased by a Skull Kid into the alternate dimension of Termina, and you meet Tingle for the first time, who is probably the most annoying invention in the history of ever. And you have to go about the 4 temples, defeating the bosses, so you can get the 4 giants to stop the moon from crashing into the planet, so you can save everything. The 2 sequels from the alternate timelines that were called were Twilight Princess and Wind Waker. Wind Waker is cell animated, and it's really not a bad game. I just never got all the way through it. I only ever beat 5 Legend of Zelda games, and one of them is a DS game. But, it's an interesting concept. Hyrule's been flooded, and you have to go on a talking boat that tells you have to control the winds to rescue Zelda, who hasn't been kidnapped in this game. She just forgot who she was or something stupid. And she's pretending to be a pirate. And you have to defeat Ganondorf, who's been unsealed, and his art style has changed dramatically, and he's now 16 feet tall. And then you get Twilight Princess, which is much better in graphics and was released for both GameCube and Wii. It was among the first games to be released for the Nintendo Wii, to be precise. In this one, Ganondorf is once again unsealed, but you don't realize that he's a bad guy until you beat Zant, the guy you thought was a bad guy, but really isn't the bad guy. And Link is a werewolf for some reason in this version. So he gets this annoying Navi stand-in, who's a Twilight named Midna. She's this little imp thing that rides around on your back and is just mildly annoying because she tells you what you're supposed to do. And then you find out that she's not a little imp thing, and she's the Twilight Princess of the title. And then we get Wind Waker has 2 sequels, whereas Twilight Princess doesn't have any yet. But, in the 2 Wind Waker sequels, both of which were on DS, I'm not counting Minish Cap! Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. I didn't really like the Phantom Hourglass. It's a direct sequel to Wind Waker, so it's only a couple months after. And you're on the boat again, and Zelda forgot she's Zelda, now she's Tetra again, and there's line back, and it's just stupid. But the other one, Spirit Tracks, I really enjoyed. In this one, Link gets a train. Yes, a train in the Middle Ages. But in it, it's as rather refreshing concept because the bad guys sucked Zelda's soul out of her body because they need her body to resurrect their Demon King guy. But I'm not going to refer to him as the Demon King because it makes me feel like I'm talking about Yu Yu Hakusho. Zelda's body's been kidnapped, and now she's a spirit that only you can see that's mildly annoying because she tells you what you're supposed to do, Navi style. But in the Tower of Spirits, she's actually quite useful. Because she's a ghost, she can have it in the bodies of these suits of armor. And help you move items, go to places where you can't go because you can't walk on spikes, stuff like that. So, yeah, that is part of the retrospective of the Legend of Zelda franchise. I apologize for not getting to the Legend of Zelda animated series from the 1980s. It's actually not a bad show. It's kind of stale, but it's genuinely funny and it's entertaining.